Hey there, Vibe Gardeners. Welcome to this episode of Vibe Gardening Inform Edition. We're going to talk a little bit about how I went away for a whole week, an emergency trip, and still came back with, well, my garden is still thriving back here. And yes, a very good neighbor was indeed the savior here. But aside from the neighbor, let's talk a little bit about how I was able to keep this whole garden still running without burdening my neighbor too much. So with that said, let's get going. As you can see here, what makes the garden being able to thrive with minimum help from a neighbor is having this Wi-Fi controlled faucet control. What this does is that it lets me be able to remotely control my watering and have it timed so I don't have to worry about missing watering on a regular basis. This is probably not the most ideal situation here, but I have one faucet here. As you can see here, I have a three-way outlet here so that I can get one on my Wi-Fi control, one for my hose, and one for letting out water, for filling in my water can. And here, as you can see with this Wi-Fi controller here, it's got two zones. And then here I have a splitter for one of them. I'll show you later on. I actually have two hoses coming out of each zone because I do have two zones that I want to be able to control independently. So as you can see, the turquoise one is my zone 1. This one has basically a splitter here. And I'll be able to link you a link to both the Wi-Fi router, as you see here, that Wi-Fi controlled faucet control, as well as the splitters for the faucet, which are extremely important for what I'm doing here. Because here with zone 1 here, as you can see, it goes right here into this garden right here. This is my in-ground garden for my tomato and peppers. At the same time too, as you can see here, with this yellow hose, it's also linked here. This yellow hose actually goes all the way over to my cucumber and eggplant raised bed here. So this way, these two are very similar in their needs. As you can see here, the hose comes in here. In a minute, I'll talk about the soaker hose I used. And zone 2 here, as you can see this green hose, this is where it gets a little spaghettier with how I do things. You can see this is my wife's garden here. How I have this set up is I have this doohickey here where I'm able to get a splitter right here. This splitter, as you can see, it basically gives it a wide split. And that way you can get some a soaker hose coming out of it, as well as a split to another length of hose. And continuing here, as you can see, the hose runs all the way over here to the second bed. Sort of with the mess here. This is where it goes into my berry and herb bed. As you can see here, the berry and herb bed gets also the same kind of watering as her garden does. So one of the things here we can see with this soaker hose is that I'm getting it to twirl around the container plants on the edge before it goes into the actual raised bed. The in-ground bed and the berry, herb, and my wife's bed, the soaker hose is actually buried in the mulch. As you can see here, you don't really see it elsewhere. And this is what it does, is that it basically gets the soil wet by the soaker hose. So that way there's no real loss of moisture as it goes from the mulch into the ground. So this is really the most ideal thing to do here. One of the mistakes I made here with this cucumber and eggplant bed is that I put the soaker hose in too late. By that point, it was almost impossible for me to be able to bury the soaker hose into the mulch. So you can see this one is actually at the top of the mulch right now. It still works. It's not ideal, but it goes right in. And so far right now, this is actually okay. As you can see, the eggplant harvest was plentiful, and it's not actually a real problem with getting production. As you can see here, I have the soaker hose turned on right now to show you how it works. This is actually a pretty cool system in that they use a sort of a manufacturing defect to the advantage in that through the seam here, it's letting the water seep out. It's so therefore the water drips out slowly instead of quickly, and this is going to give you this watering, this moisture, without having too much of an impact on soil. This is a big deal because one of the problems with soil as it goes along is that there's too much soil compaction as time goes. What this does is that it gives you the most gentle drip of water onto the soil as you can. And this way, it basically reduces the soil compaction as you water through time. And it's extremely important. But the problem for it to work, though, is that it needs to have a certain amount of water pressure on it. And one of the things that you have to be careful when you buy a soaker hose, I will link the soaker hose I used below in my product link. And this soaker hose right here is one I found works really well for regular residential. With a lot of the soaker hose that are sold, they market it as being needing about 60 or more psi to operate ideally. But normal American household here in the United States, our water pressure is generally about 60 psi coming into the house, not at the point of the faucet. So having it at 60 might give you a very slow dribble, like it's not even working. And this is where you need to make sure first you have a pressure regulator, which is kind of like a plastic circle that you put on the connector here, and that's going to keep it from basically pushing too much water in. But at the same time, because it's not at needing 60 psi all the time, it's going to be able to use what you have and use it correctly. And so don't buy any of those that's asking for 60 psi, because likely you're not getting that kind of pressure coming from your faucet. So just be warned. So check my link below for a soaker hose that I know is going to work in United States with our standard faucet. Then in this section, we'll be talking about how to set up the Wi-Fi faucet controller. So as you can see with the screenshot, it's able to detect the temperature. That's in the zip code I have set up here. You can do weather delay. So I have this set up as smart weather. I actually don't know how smart it is. And I have this, as you can see here, I can turn it on with a click of a button for about 10 minutes or so. And it shows you the next scheduled watering. So with the schedule, the thing that you can do here is you can see at what time of the day the watering starts, and then for how long the duration is, and then what day of the week it's going to be doing its work. As you can see here with the zone A, which is the first one with my in-ground tomato and pepper garden, and my raised bed with the cucumber and the eggplants, what I'm doing here is I'm starting at 6 o'clock in the morning, about 45 minutes. On Monday, Wednesday, and actually what we're not seeing here is that actually it's also going to be on Saturday. Then the zone B here, we're starting at 6:50. So make sure there's a 5-minute delay between zone A and zone B, because zone A is going to run till about 6:45 a.m. So in case it overlaps, they will be able to give enough water to each zone individually, because we want to make sure that each one gets the maximum water pressure they can get. So zone B, we're starting at 6:50 a.m. for about 40 minutes. So Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday. And so actually they both have about 3 days running, which is pretty good. And the reason why I have it running for 40 or 45 minutes is that this is a drip, right? The main problem is at the end of the soaker hose, the pressure is going to be significantly reduced because a lot of that water is going to be draining out all throughout it. And this is kind of a problem with any kind of irrigation, is by the end of the pipe, it's always going to be a little bit reduced in pressure, actually, or could be a lot, depending on how your system works. So this is why I'm running for 45 minutes to make sure that enough water reaches to the end of it. So this is how I have it set up, and obviously it's been working throughout the entire season. So the final consideration is before you go on trip, you want to make sure that for those plants that need regular fertilization, you want to fertilize it before you go. And if needed, you also want to give it a little extra misting and everything to make sure it's staying cool before you go. And if you know there might be a lot of heat or stress, you also want to give it a dose of aspirin before you go as well. And the aspirin, really, at that case, is that the cheapest aspirin. Do not get long extended release aspirin. Get the cheapest aspirin you can get. Dissolve about 1 tablet into a gallon of water, and then water your plants before you leave. Because as that the video I link below to gardening in Canada, aspirin is a huge deal for relieving stress in plants. So that's going to give them an upper hand in combating whatever stress comes. And that's going to really help you on long trips. And so with that, really make sure you thank your neighbor enough. Let them come and harvest what you have in here, because honestly, if you cannot get there fast enough, it's going to be a problem, especially when it comes to cucumbers. If you let them kind of get old on the vine, the plant will start going to decline quicker than you want. So just give your neighbor the opportunity to come and have some of your harvest as kind of payback, as well as making sure the plants keep going. And then thank them other ways, because without them, your garden wouldn't be this well off. So with that, I hope that helped you understand how to get yourself an automated watering system, which will also help you get regular watering without having to worry about it. So with that said, go and vibe and garden, guys. It's always fun.